Well, just sort of having a little play around with my camera, new camera, making sure the sound works this time. It looks like it is. Definitely had it on the wrong setting when I was fishing. Just back in the shed and just looking back at my winter league on Sunday, which was, as far as I'm concerned, was a complete disaster. I definitely fished completely the wrong match. I think the bait was right. I was fishing in the wrong place, and I got a little bit too gung ho. In my head, I was thinking. I literally was looking back at what I was saying about going how somewhere fished 2 weeks ago, and 2 weeks ago, that lake was one with 136 pounds on maggots, fishing across, fishing up and down in the water, a lot of fish getting caught shallow. And weather-wise, it had changed, but not that much, I felt. So I went there with the full intentions of catching on maggots, which I think was right, but unfortunately it was blowing an absolute hoolie from behind me and slightly across. So when I was plumbing up, it wasn't too bad. Putting the rigs out, checking them, they seemed to sit well, but the wind got worse and worse and worse. And when I've gone out, putting the rig out, of course it's just blowing towards the far bank the whole time. It's just not sitting right at any point. But I've caught 2 F1s, decent ones. So you're thinking, okay, I've caught two, some fish there, keep going. I just should have come off of it within an hour, basically, because it was just wrong. But I carried on plugging away because not a lot else was getting caught. But what's happened is the pegs round to my left. The canal comes round, then goes sort of round to your left. Now they were peg 48, 50, 46 was definitely not in the wind as much. 48 looked very calm when I walked round to go and collect my brolly from the far bank, because the wind picked it up and blew it straight. I hadn't clamped it down properly and it just lifted up and flew across the canal. Luckily it didn't upset anybody and I was able to go and get it. But schoolboy error. But as I walked down looking at the canal, it was definitely a lot calmer. I didn't realise 48 was catching as well as he was. Going 50, as I walked past, he'd caught one on a little method. But 48, unbeknown to me, had been putting a lot of fish in the net. Then I knew Dave Fluff was catching on 40, 41, 42, about 44, I think it was. So I knew I was well behind from him. But apart from him, he was the only one I could see that was catching. So to my right, not a lot was getting caught. Left, not a lot. Liam wasn't catching loads. So I thought, well, I'll keep plodding because I'm not a million miles behind. Well, it just suddenly changed. Where they'd all been fishing slightly shorter and tapping in a bit of bait, suddenly Liam next door clunk. He's had a carp about £6. Then to the right's had the same. And I just thought, okay, keep going. And I've caught a couple of skimmers, but then they've both caught a couple of decent carp again, and I've come in shorter, but I just hadn't done it right. I hadn't fed it properly. I'd put all my eggs in one basket, really, fishing long, and it was just a completely wrong thing to do. I've just done it completely wrong. Looking back again, as I say, I think if I'd have started, and this is what in the winter is a bit of a rule of thumb really, normally you should start short, tap in a bit of bait and see what goes on, work it out from there. And I've just gone against all the rule books really. Gone out across thinking I'm going to empty it. Wrong. So I need to put my winter head right on now, because sort of get away with it in one sense that you can throw away your worst result. So I'm hoping this is my worst result. So I've gone from having 1 point to now having 7 points. So that's big gap, but there is a long way to go. So I'm not going to stress too much yet. I just need to make sure that the next matches count. As I say, looking back, fishing started off short and just tapping in a few maggots on perhaps one line, fishing 8 metres, maybe even fishing 11 metres, and then coming back to 5 or 6 metres at the bottom of the shelf would have been much better. I could have controlled the rig a lot more. I should have set up a proper edge rig. It's very deep, but I should have plumbed up a little bit away as it drops down, just on the ledge, and just tapped in a bit of bait there, and perhaps tried to nick one from there, nick a couple out in front. And I wasn't patient. I was so impatient. I think I was a bit tired, to be honest, and I was just moving around too much. I wasn't concentrating on one thing, which is what I always say I should do, is fish something properly rather than scatting about trying to try different things. You need to, as I say, pick something and stick to it. I picked the wrong thing and stuck to it, basically, and I should have just known better. I could have easily come off of it, got some pellets out, tapped in a few pellets, put an expander on the hook or 2 maggots, fished that over the top and sat and waited, and I think I would have caught, just waiting for a proper bite. So I only got myself to blame. Definitely done it wrong. All I can say is well done to, really sorry, I can't remember the guy's name, on 48. Well done, brilliant, £78, well done. And then Fluff again, £45. Then there was a 43 to my right and a 36 to my left. I ended up with £15, so I'm well and truly battered. Looking back again, only needed 4 or 5 decent carp, would have been back in the race, and I just wasn't thinking straight. So there we go, on to the next one. As you say, you learn every time you go out, and it definitely made me think a bit more. So the next match for me will be Tuesday next week. I think it's going to be old Match Lake, which I use as a practice, because I'm then on the Old Match Lake for the Winter League. I think the weather's going to get cold this weekend and then warm up again, so it's, the weather is a little bit all over the place, really. So Tuesday I'll have to use it as a good practice. I'll try and film that if I can, but go through try a few different things, just to see what might, better bait wise, see what's going to be best. But I think it's going to be, if I'm honest, I think it's going to be pellets. I think it's going to be probably straight lead method if you've got an island to aim at, and then a pole line, but this time fishing it sensibly. I think you're wasting your time with skimmers at the moment. It's just, don't think there's enough getting caught. I mean, looking at the weights though, they're still low, 36, 37 pounds. I think 45 pound won it on Sunday. So it's the low weights for that lake, but it could switch quite easily. The carp could have a munch and suddenly you're going to need 80 pounds. So it's just going to be a case of getting it, wait to see what the weather does a bit nearer the time. But I'll have it. So I know it well enough, but I would have a little practice, just try a few different things out. So that would be something to watch out for if you're interested in watching. But I will film it. As I say, I'm learning as I go, doing this filming thing, and I think that was the other thing on Sunday. I started off trying to film it, and then I'm worrying about what's going on with the camera and the wind and the rain and everything, and I must get into my head that if the weather's not right, don't bother filming, because you're just wasting your time. Because it doesn't look like it doesn't film very well. It's not very enjoyable to watch, and it's just pointless doing it. So I did say I'd do good, bad and the ugly, which I will do, but perhaps I won't. I'll do a little bit on my phone if it's going to be horrible weather, just to sort of do an update of what's going on, rather than trying to film the whole match. So that was it, really. Yes, I messed it up completely, and as I say, every day's a learning curve. And you as Paul Holland always says, you have to fail to succeed, and he's so right, because if you do something really badly wrong, you've got to learn from it, remember it, and move on, and not do it again, basically. So yes, good advice that is from Paul. Every day is a learning curve, and you learn from you get better by making mistakes. So hopefully I can learn from my mistakes from the weekend. Yep, so just as I was saying, back in the shed. So Sunday's Winter League was a complete disaster, as many of you have probably seen from watching the film. So literally, I was thinking that the rigs were wrong and all that sort of stuff, but when I look back, I don't think they weren't wrong. I was just fishing in the wrong place. The maggot strung, I've caught all my fish on that, so it was right, but it wasn't. The bait wasn't presenting right because of the wind. And when I went out on a bulk rig on the bottom, I was waiting, and then if I get a bite, it was a roach. So I don't think there was as many fish there as I thought there were. And as I said, coming in short would have been much better because I could have controlled the rig, controlled the feed. I was loose feeding and it was fine, but every now and again you get a gust and it would push it too far across. And I should have just been, as I say, I was better off tapping in bait that day. So yeah, I'm looking at changing a few rigs around for the match lake, obviously. So it's a different scenario, but I don't think that I'm going to need to fish much heavier because the carp aren't going mental at the moment. And you've got to try and catch everything you can, I think, on that lake at the moment. Skimmers could come into it if certain pegs are good skimmer pigs. If you can catch 20-pounder skimmers, and which hasn't happened a lot recently, but it does. So if you get it right and you can catch 20-pounder skimmers, maybe catch a couple of carp late, suddenly you're in the race. So that's the sort of thing I'm going to be looking at. So as I say, I'm going to have a play around with that on Tuesday. I want to go out before, but as I say, I work for Sky, as many of you know, so it's what we call our long week. So worked yesterday and Monday, they're all 12-hour shifts. I'm a bit knackered today, and so I won't be going out now. I'm not going out Thursday. I just need to have a bit of rest. And then working Friday, Saturday and Sunday, which is 36-hour stint. So I'll be a bit knackered again Monday, but I'm definitely going Tuesday. So we shall see what happens then. I'm going to do another little one in between now and then on back in the shed, making a few rigs up and stuff, and I'll try and run through a few ground baits and stuff, and pellet choice for hook bait and stuff like that. And when I'm fishing the bomb, I'm going to be looking at using something like 6mm skretting, 6mm coppins or an 8mm coppins, and the old faithful red pellets. You always get a few bites on those. One of the lads has been fishing a tea bag and he's been catching an awful lot of fish on it, so it's something to look at. It's not the sort of fishing that I do, so I'd want to start trying to do things that I'm not used to doing, because again, that's something that you can completely destroy you if you don't do that right. So I'll have a little look at that. But apart from that, I will stop blabbering on now, but just to say, really, I messed it up completely. But I've learned a lot from that. So, and just, I should know better, because I've been fishing an awful long time. I was brought up on the River Ember. My grandfather backed onto the River Ember when I was growing up. I used to fish there almost every spare minute of the day I had. And I should know by now about weather conditions and when not to do something. But my background is fishing rivers. I was born and bred on the river, so that's where I learnt a lot of it. The craft, as it were, got taught by amazing anglers. Ray Mumford, a long time ago, when he fished at Molesey, when I was a Molesey junior. He used to fish the evening matches on the Thames down at Molesey. They were good matches, really good. 50 peggers for a 2-hour evening match. It's unbelievable. Canterbury Gardens. I used to fish a lot on the Thames at Leyland, Molesey, with Kenny Collins, Stevie Gardner, Mark Richardson, who's fishes Cornwall. No, I don't know where else he goes these days, but I know he goes to Whiteacres quite a lot. He was a brilliant angler, Mark. Brilliant Thames angler. A lot of respect for Mark. He was good. He could, he was good at catching a roach, stick float, and maggot. Brilliant angler. That was all. That's all we did back then. Didn't really fish poles. If we fished a pole, it was a whip. Early doors, in the sort of late 70s, early 80s, it was all waggler, stick float, maggot feeder. Very rarely even fished a crumb feeder, to be honest. But it was little straight bombs fishing, little tiny bomb fishing it down the edge on the Thames, little tiny dinky bites, catching roach and dace. Brilliant fishing. Really used to enjoy those matches. They were lovely. Working really hard to catch 10, 12 pound a dace. But yeah, shame that doesn't really happen now. The river circuit's sort of gone really from that sense. Still plenty of river anglers out there and a lot of big matches. For me now, I've stopped that. Still got plenty of river gear up here, which I'll probably have to get rid of at some point, because I don't think I'm going to be going back to that, walking miles to catch £3. It was great back then, but I've got the energy now. But I did used to love it. There were some brilliant anglers back there. Stevie Gardner. Crikey, the list is endless. But that's where Will Raisin started as well on the rivers. And, there's another, when I talk about levels of anglers, when I was saying you've got your sort of average level, you've got your club anglers, then you've got the sort of match circuit, then you've got your like semi-professional, professional anglers, your Paul Hollands, your Andy Bennetts and all the rest of it. Then you could put another level on there, you stick Will Raisin up there, different level again altogether. I mean, what an awesome angler, you name it, he can do it. I mean, their ship's the same as well, anglers that can go and fish a canal Saturday and then an international match on the Sunday, just knowing what to do. Awesome anglers there. And I think what Will's got in his head is just probably unbelievable. To try and get into his head to pick everything out and be unbelievable, I think. Whatever he does, he's awesome. You watch him, he's just so accurate in everything that he does. He's feeding, everything. Awesome angler to watch. I haven't watched him that much. Known Will since he was a kid, really, when we used to fish Willow Park, when obviously they owned Willow Park. He'd come back from school and he'd come and sit and watch everybody. And then he had his spell fishing with Stevie Gardner, who I should think Will would say was probably one of the best anglers that he's fished with. And he spent a lot of time with Bob Nudd. And look at Bob Nudd, crikey now. Getting a bit older now, Bob. Not being disrespectful or anything. And what an awesome angler you are, Mr. Nudd. Crikey, you're still catching £30 a roach on a lot of these river venues. Another angler that loves fishing the rivers, but another angler that can go and do pretty much anything. Alan Scawthorne. Anyway, so I'm blabbering a bit now, but I was just trying to get to the point that you've got another level above that, above your Paul Hollands and Andy Bennetts. I think Andy Bennett and Paul would agree with me if they said how good Will is. Bearing in mind that he spends most of his time concentrating on the international circuit. I mean, I shudder to think what would happen if he just concentrated on fishing commercials and did nothing else. He'd probably be winning an awful lot of big events. Anyway, that's enough of me blabbering. I'll do another little one in here when I'm doing some rigs and stuff like that. I'm not doing it today as I'm a bit tired. And I'm going to take the dog for a walk now. Might have a sneaky pint as well on the way back. So that's me done for today. But I'll speak to you all soon. Have a great couple of days if you're going out at all over this weekend. Have a great weekend. And, give me a ping. Let me know what you've caught, how you've caught, where you've gone. Be interesting to get other people's updates on where they're going and what they're catching on. Great stuff. Right, thanks for watching. If you're watching, speak to you soon. Bye for now.